She lost everything in a single day: her parents, her dreams, and her freedom. Forced into a cruel marriage and later dumped as a maid in a stranger's mansion, she had no idea her kindness would heal a broken billionaire and change both, their destinies forever. They say life changes in a moment, but for Jessica, that moment hit like lightning, striking twice in one day. Just weeks before, she was a happy village girl, humming songs while preparing for her WAS exams. Her parents, Papa Uche and Mama Uche, may have been poor, but they gave her the richest childhood anyone could ask for, filled with love, laughter, and jollof rice with fried plantain under the mango tree. Her father always said, "Jessica, you're worth more than 10 sons. I'm proud to be your papa, but happiness is fragile, and fate, sometimes cruel." One hot afternoon, as the village slept under the weight of the sun, tragedy came knocking. Not once, but twice. Jessica was helping her mother cut okra in the kitchen when a young boy came running, panting, panicked. "Mama, Jessie, Mama, Jessie, come quickly. Papa Jessie has been bitten by a snake." Water dripped from her mother's hands. Jessica froze, the knife slipping from her fingers. Without even tying her wrapper properly, Mama Uche ran. Jessica followed. Dust rose behind their feet like a warning from the gods. But by the time they reached the narrow path to the farm, it was too late. Papa Uche was lying still, his face pale, his eyes empty. Jessica screamed. Her world tilted, and just when she thought it couldn't get worse, it did. Mama Uche collapsed beside her husband, clutching her chest. "Water! Somebody bring water!" a voice screamed, but it was no use. Within hours, Jessica had no parents, no home, no comfort, just the heavy silence of mourning and the cold reality of being an orphan. After the funeral, Jessica's world didn't just grow quieter. It turned cold. Her uncle Emeka arrived not with comfort, but with a decision. "You'll come to the city with me," he said flatly. She nodded, though her heart was heavy with questions. The city was loud, unfamiliar, nothing like home. Uncle Emeka's house was big, but it held no warmth. His wife, Clara, made her roll, clear from day one. Another mouth to feed? She better work for it, she hissed. Jessica became the shadow in the household, washing clothes that weren't hers, sweeping floors that never stayed clean, cooking meals she was barely allowed to eat. They didn't call her by name. They called her the girl. At night, she studied by candlelight, the only piece of her old life she could hold on to, but even that small flame was a threat. "Wasting candle again?" Clara would yell before slapping it out. But Jessica didn't cry anymore. She was learning to be silent. She was learning to survive. This house wasn't a home. It was a cage, wrapped in the illusion of family. Years passed. The girl they tried to break didn't bend. Jessica woke before dawn, finished her chores before sunrise, and still made it to school with a book in her hand. She never missed a class. Not even the days she went without food, not even the nights she slept on cold tiles. Her teachers noticed. A quiet girl with tired eyes, but answers sharper than anyone else's. She didn't speak much, but when she did, she spoke with fire. "Why do you study so hard?" a classmate once asked. She looked at them, her voice steady. "Because I refuse to stay invisible." One day, the school announced a scholarship for the top student in the region. Jessica applied. Clara laughed. "Scholarship? You can't even afford proper shoes." But Jessica walked barefoot to the exam center and walked out with the highest score. Just when it seemed like the light was finally shining on her life, darkness came again, this time wearing a familiar face. Jessica had been promised a better future. The scholarship was real. The dreams felt close enough to touch. Until the letter came. Application rejected. She blinked at the paper, reading the words over and over. It didn't make sense. She had the highest score. Her teachers were shocked. The principal was speechless. Then the truth came like a slap in the face. The scholarship had been given to Clara, the same Clara who once mocked her shoes, now holding her future. Why? Because Clara's uncle was on the scholarship board, and he made a call. And just like that, Jessica's name disappeared, like it was never even there. She confronted the principal, eyes burning. "But I earned it. You know I did." The man looked away. "Sometimes life isn't fair, Jessica." She walked home slowly that evening, her dreams shattered, her spirit bruised. The streets felt colder. The sky looked cruel, but in her chest, something refused to die. She looked up and whispered through clenched teeth, "If life won't open a door, I'll build one with my bare hands." The city didn't welcome her. It swallowed her. Tall buildings, cold faces, and streets that didn't care if you sank or survived. Jessica arrived with nothing but a suitcase and a heart full of scars. No friends, no money, no one waiting, just a name scribbled on a torn paper, the address of a shared apartment. It smelled like damp walls and lost hopes, but it was a roof, and that was enough. Days turned into weeks. She worked 2 jobs, cleaning in the morning, waiting tables at night. Sleep was a luxury. Tears were silent, swallowed in the noise of a city that never listened. Sometimes she passed billboards, smiling faces, luxury brands, dreams dressed in diamonds. She didn't envy them. She studied them like puzzles. "How do they get there?" she'd whisper. "What do they know that I don't?" And then, one night, it happened. A woman at the restaurant, elegant, sharp, powerful, noticed her. Noticed the way she carried herself, the way she spoke, noticed something hidden beneath the apron and exhaustion. She handed her a card. "Come see me tomorrow. I think you're meant for something bigger than this." Jessica stared at the card, one sentence echoing in her head. "Is this the door I've been waiting for?" The office was nothing like she'd ever seen. Glass walls. Silence. That smelled like money. People walking with purpose. Not rushing, just knowing. Jessica clutched the card in her hand. Doubt gnawed at her. What if they laugh? What if she doesn't belong? But she walked in, because fear had followed her for years, and she was done letting it lead. The woman from the restaurant introduced herself. Her name was Alina. Not a mentor, not a savior, just someone who saw something and decided not to look away. "Do you want to be invisible?" Alina asked. "Or do you want to be unforgettable?" Jessica didn't blink. Unforgettable, and that's where it started. No shortcuts. No fairy tale. Just days of grinding, learning how people think, how they buy, how they want, training her voice to command, not just speak. Wearing ambition like armor. Failing. Getting up. Failing again. Girl who once whispered apologies now spoke in boardrooms. The hands that once scrubbed floors now signed deals. She didn't change who she was. She uncovered it. They said she was too soft, too kind, too emotional. So she used it. Kindness became her power, empathy, her strategy, and emotion, her fire. She wasn't just surviving now, she was building, becoming. Jessica was no longer waiting for someone to choose her. She had chosen herself. They say when you rise, the air gets thinner. What they don't say is how quiet it becomes. Jessica had everything she thought she wanted. Power, respect, a name that made rooms pause. But one night, alone in her apartment, she stood in front of the mirror and didn't recognize the woman staring back. Her clothes were perfect, her posture sharp, her expression cold. Somewhere between the boardrooms and the business cards, she had built a mask so strong even she had forgotten who was underneath. She didn't cry anymore, didn't laugh the same, didn't feel the things she once fought so hard to protect. Because the world had told her softness is weakness, vulnerability is risk, feeling is failure. So she hid those parts away, tucked them behind success stories and social posts, became who they expected her to be, not who she truly was. But the cost? Silence, in her own heart, and in that silence, a question. Did I win? Or did I just stop losing? The mirror didn't answer, but deep down, she knew the difference. The pressure was building, like steam trapped inside a sealed pot. Jessica's carefully constructed world began to crack. Small fractures at first, missed calls, forgotten birthdays, hollow smiles, but cracks grow, and soon they became impossible to ignore. One night, everything came crashing down. A phone call she couldn't take, a confrontation she couldn't avoid, a moment where the mask slipped, and all the pain she'd buried exploded. She realized then, success felt hollow. Achievements felt empty. She was losing herself. This was the fracture point, the moment when something inside her broke, but also the moment when change became inevitable. Because sometimes you have to fall apart to finally put yourself back together.